Welcome to On the Beat, everyone. I'm Troy Thompson. Joining me in the studio today is Richard Schwartz and Patrick Wooten of Richard Schwartz and Associates. And today, everyone, we're talking about livestock, or guess what? Wild animal accidents. How do you get into an accident with a wild animal, gentlemen? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here
in
again.
Mississippi, it's easy to do. There's more deer here than there are people. And when
Really?
deer, yes, that's so what happens is that if a deer jumps out in front of you, that's considered an act of God. You can't sue the deer, so you really don't have a claim for your injuries other than your MedPay coverage of your vehicle. The passenger may have a claim if the driver against the driver. If the driver did something wrong, for instance, the driver saw other deer in the area and didn't slow down, because usually when you see one deer, there's a bunch of them. Or maybe he diverted his eyes, or was maybe going too fast for the area, and that caused part of the accident. The passenger may have a claim against the driver, but the driver can't make a claim for any injuries because it's an act of God.
I find that absolutely fascinating, and I did say to you that does this go across all wild animals? So as an example, if we're in a state where there were bison or other type of wild animals, that bears and things like that, it would be a similar case, I would assume.
I would think so, yeah.
Who came up with that? Because I'm sure there was at some point that there would be some negligence against the state.
Well, the act of God isn't just wild animals. It can be like a tree that falls on your car and no one knew the tree was defective or anything wrong with the tree. All of those are act of God, and that it prevents you from making a claim against your insurance for your injuries.
Well, one thing I do want to touch on, because we do know there's a lot of accidents when it comes to horses and cows, right?
They're absolutely.
So what's the gist on this? What do we need to do if we're driving along and we actually hit someone's horse or cow that's not in their yard?
And that's completely different than what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So hitting a horse or hitting a cow, in Mississippi, there's laws that specifically address state highways and federal highways. If it's the owner of that horse or cow negligently allowed that animal to escape, you then have a claim against the owner of that horse or cow or pig or whatever domesticated farm animal it may be. Yep.
Can I tell you something? Coming from the land, my father used to make us once a month take the dairy cows out and graze along the side of the freeway and eat all the good grass. Do you know what I mean? So we were really being very silly for doing that if someone ran into it.
Well, I can't tell you what the law is in Australia, but probably so.
Yeah, fascinating. All right, what do we need to do if we hit an animal from someone's farm to begin with?
You know, the first thing I would do is look for any type of markings, any tags, any kind of markings on the animal at all, and take pictures of it, because the reality is the animals can be disposed of. And it's amazing to me how many people say that wasn't my cow. And so you need to find any markings of any kind and take those pictures, because that way it can be identified to a particular farmer.
Really? What happens if the horse or cow gets out without the farmer knowing?
It depends. That's a fact-based situation at that point. So did they leave a gate open mistakenly? They didn't realize, or did they have hired help that left a gate open? So that gets to where you retain an attorney to do the investigation, to find out the facts as to how that animal was able to escape, to determine, is there liability that should be assessed to that owner of that animal, or is it just truly an accident that it was no negligence of that owner, and then you'd fall back on your comprehensive insurance on your vehicle.
You give us such great advice on these topics. How often do you see these types of, you know, the livestock and the wild animals go to court?
Well, first off, we get a ton of calls on deer and wildlife, and also on domestic animals. Happens all the time.
You see a lot of this?
A whole ton.
Fascinating.
Yep.
Fascinating. Thank you for coming in again.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you. If
Thank
you want
you.
to find out more, there it all is up on the screen for you. Richard Schwartz and Associates, they will take care of all your legal needs. Back after this short break.